Hello and welcome to the Author's Note series on YouTube. I'm Kate Sheeran Swed. I am the author of science fiction and fantasy books, and this is my new informal weekly check-in. You can tell it's informal because of my messy desk behind me. I'm recording on Sundays and I will be posting on Mondays, so if you hear the kids running around in the background and stuff, it's Sunday energy. The name of the series comes from a theme of my website. If you haven't checked it out, I run a free science fiction serial there. It's called the Mission Log series, and I thought it would be fun to have a corresponding kind of author's log. So that's where the title comes from, and I will link to the serial in the description here in case you'd like to check it out. So the first section here is going to be the news section. Exile Sky is out tomorrow. That is Parse Galaxy Book 4, and the link is in the description. This one was a blast to write. I just love everything about these books. They give me so much joy. Sloane's voice really flows for me. The stories make me laugh, and I surprise myself when I write them, which is always fun. And we're halfway through this series now. I'm planning 8 books. It's really exciting. Book 5 is going to be out in May, and it is already on pre-order. I always forget to say that. I always have the next book on pre-order before the previous one comes out. So if you're new to the Parse Galaxy, I have started a reading series on YouTube, and it's also available during via the podcast providers, so Apple and Spotify, and I'm getting it on Google. It's just taking some time, and on YouTube, of course. So the new episodes go live every Thursday, and I'm reading 2 chapters a week. So right now I'm reading the prequel novella to the Parse Galaxy series. So if Parse is new to you, or if you're a big Parse fan and you want some of those tidbits about the series and about what I love about it or background information, I'm throwing some stuff like that in, and you can check that out. So I will also link that into the description. Right now there's only 1 episode, but there'll be a new one on Thursday. So every Thursday. And this is something that I'm loving so far. I've recorded 2 episodes so far. I'm planning to record the third tomorrow. I can hardly restrain myself from recording them every time, it's time to record one or I want to get ahead. And it's like, it's a lot of fun to remember what I love about these books and kind of go back to as something that I published a year ago. So, there are bloopers and occasional meowing cats in the background, and then I chase them out of the basement. I edit that part out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So this series is running through March 16th, and on March 17th, I'm gonna go live on Instagram and YouTube and maybe Facebook, I guess, and do a Q&A. So I'll be taking questions ahead of time in case you can't make it. So with that news out of the way, we'll move on to my goals. Usually I'll be like, my goals from last week, how did I do? But this is the first episode, so we will start that next time. So what I'm working on this week. This week I am polishing up the stories that I owe my Kickstarter backers. So if you don't know, I ran a Kickstarter campaign in November for the first 2 books in my new YA space opera series, and it's called The Interstellar Trials. The first book will be out at all retailers at the end of March, or you'll be able to get all 3 books at once if you order them from my website. Otherwise, they'll be out in 2-week intervals, and I will link to that too, but I'll talk about it more probably next week or the week after Exile Sky comes out. So one of the stretch goals in that campaign, the Kickstarter, was to write a collection of 6 stories that take place in the Interstellar Trials universe. And they are almost ready to go. I want to finish them up this week and get them out to my Kickstarter backers who have very, very graciously waited an extra month past when I promised them. Thank you for that. I got all the books out ahead of time, all the ebooks were out, all the print books were out, but I had a little bit of miscalculation on the stories, and it's funny about stories. Sometimes they take on a life of their own, even more than a novel will. I kind of let myself roam and be a little bit riskier or a little bit experimental and try things I haven't done before. And that's just one of the stories ended up being longer than I expected it to be, and then a couple of them ended up being like kind of poetic, and they're on the shorter side but voicey, and I just wanted to let that roll. I wanted to make sure that I was sending out the best stories possible. So They will be getting those probably in a week or a little more than a week. They're almost done. Eventually, that collection will be available elsewhere. So if you join my newsletter, you'll already get access to one of the stories. You can do that at my website, it's katesheeranswed.com. But it's going out to backers as it's backers first. I am also working on the third book in that series, the Legacy, it's called. I don't know if this series is going to continue beyond 3 books. All 3 books will be out by the end of April. I'm planning them out in trilogy arcs. So this arc will finish. It will be complete with this narrator and her story. It will be done. But I might do another trilogy or a duology within that world that focuses on other characters if people like that series, kind of just like continue the story forward. So I will check in next week and I will let you know how I did on those goals. And going forward, if you do end up reading those books and you have an opinion on whether you want more books in the series, I'm going to want to know that from you. So this section is called Why I Love What I'm Working on. The Interstellar Trials books are told in first person, and it's only one narrator until I get to book 3, which I'm working on now. And that will have some chapters from another character's point of view. So it's a really fun thing to get to write from some of the side characters' perspectives that we didn't see, in like they didn't see their perspective within the book. The thing about this story is that the characters live in vastly different environments. They are passengers on a fleet of generational spaceships, and at one point during the journey, the ships fought and they had a war, and so now while they all continue to travel together, the ships are kind of locked together. They can't split apart navigationally, and that's important to the story. But they're essentially 2 separate fleets with 2 separate governments. One of the sides is sort of like utopian, they're free anyway, and their main survival tactic is to live for the moment philosophy. I mean, they're living in their entire lives through space to get somewhere. And so they encourage travel between ships. They have arcades and hospitality and hotels and all that stuff. They're like big skyscraper cities. And the other side of it is the more dystopian side. So those ships, the new fleet, they run under a fascist admiral. He's the villain of the story. And it's more like Hunger Games in space. That's what one of my Kickstarter backers said. And I'm like, I will take it. I love the Hunger Games. That's where the main character in the Interstellar Trials is from, the dystopian side, but she lives off the grid, so nobody knows she's there. So it's really fun to explore the different characters and their different takes. I mean, even writing, polishing up Jillian's story, Jillian is the character that Reggie kind of like steals her identity to take a spot in the games. I mean, that's in the marketing materials. It's not a spoiler. And just like Reggie's been off the grid, she lives between the hulls. So even Jillian's impression of the same ship is so different from Reggie's. And so it's really a lot of fun to explore these different pieces of the universe. And I'm actually also going to make a ship glossary this week or next week and make it available. I haven't decided exactly how. I might put it on my blog. I might just make it like a free download for anybody because it's a really vast story world and it's starting to get kind of complicated. And if I'm feeling like it's complicated, then maybe my readers are too. So, yeah, that's one thing I'm thinking about doing. So that's for the stuff that I'm working on. And what I'm reading, right now I'm reading Time Salvager by Wesley Chu. My focus has been a little bit fractured. My kids keep getting sick, but I'm really finally able to dig into this book and really enjoying it. The world is very cool. The premise is that in the future, humanity needs to travel back in time to salvage power sources from disasters that are about to occur. Because if they take the power source out of the disaster before it happens, then they basically won't be changing the timeline at all. Example, if there's going to be a shipwreck, the time travelers dip back in time, steal the generator before the disaster happens, and everybody on the ship dies anyway, and then they get that item sent back to their future. So it's really great writing, very great world building, and neat characters, and I'm very much enjoying it. I usually read several books at once, but I'm trying to focus and I have a lot of work going on, so I'm just reading that one at the moment. And the section is like what I'm watching, other media. I haven't had a ton of time for TV this week. My husband and I just finished watching School of Chocolate on Netflix last week, and it's not sci-fi, but it kind of makes me think like, ooh, what would a sci-fi version of this be like? So I'm also dying to watch Wakanda Forever. Haven't gotten to see it yet, so very excited to watch that. I'm also, if you follow me on Instagram occasionally, I mention that I'm watching my way through the original Star Trek series, and I want to watch all of the series, but I'm in the middle of the second season of the original series, and I didn't have a lot of time for it this week, but I'm really enjoying it, and it's fun to watch it evolve. You know, the earliest episodes are they seem to be like a lot more simple, and the same themes keep coming up. I mean, you can see when the writers are on a theme. They love to have civilizations run by a computer, and different, you can see where some of the fear is coming in about technology, fear about questions or stories they're being inspired by the space race and computers that are getting more powerful, and you can kind of see that reflected. But one thing I'm loving about the second season is how Lieutenant Uhura, who is the communications officer, is becoming more important in it. She'll occasionally, like, punch somebody or like do something exciting, or there's one episode where she's fixing the comm unit. And that's just really cool. It's cool to see a black woman get her role, come into her own. I know that she was very important for the civil rights movement and for encouraging women to enter the STEM field. Nichelle Nichols is the actress. If you're watching this, you may know all of this. You're like, yeah, okay, I know. But I'm kind of new to Star Trek, so I was always more of a Stargate girl and Star Wars. So I am just absolutely loving getting to watch through all of this and see it's still a dated show, certainly, but progressive for the time, and just enjoying the stories. Really, at the heart of it, the stories are a lot of fun. They're really good. They're thought provoking. There's a lot of subtext, despite some of the strong acting techniques, of being a little bit, we would think it of overacting now, I guess. I don't know much about the history of film and theater, and so someone could probably school me on that, but it's very interesting, and I can talk more about that. And I'm going to give you an album of the week. I just added this. Album of the week is the Avett Brothers' True Sadness, and I've got it on repeat. Not because I'm sad, just because I love them. They're awesome. Okay, so then I'm going to add an adventure of the week. And in addition to starting the podcast and starting this, my adventure of the week was not as much fun. I was like, I'm going to add an adventure of the week, but I didn't really have an adventure this week. So I went out to get groceries and wine yesterday, and I went and got my groceries, and I like went through, and then I got to the wine shop, which is about 20 minutes away, and I realized that I had left my purse in the shopping cart at the grocery store. But I had my phone with me, which was a blessing and a curse, because if I had left it in my purse, then I would have realized my purse was left behind, because my podcast would have not started playing in the car. But luckily I called the store, and people are generally good, so they had my purse with everything in it, and I was just that lady who had to drive back and get her purse. I don't know if this qualifies as an adventure, but that was exciting. And I thought if I add an adventure of the week to this, then I will have an incentive to find an adventure of the week. And that will be kind of exciting. So that's it for this week's author note. And just in closing, I think this is one of those things that will evolve a little bit. I write out a little outline here, and then I'm giving asides, and I tend to ramble slightly, but I think I'm going to, you know, see how I like it and see how this evolves. So I certainly would love to get comments from you, or questions, or things you liked about, or things you want to hear more about. A lot of times I think something is boring and I don't want to like jabber on about it, and then only to find out that actually my readers loved that. They wanted to know more. They had questions in my newsletter, and or something like that. So please let me know what you're enjoying, or if you wanted to hear more about something, and I will do my best not to cut myself off on that topic. And I will be back next Monday with another update. So let's learn and evolve together. Have a great week.